And turn now to the man who's been in the corner of your screen in the little preview box, is now in the middle of your screen opening arguments with former acting Solicitor General Neal Katyal, who's argued dozens of cases before the Supreme Court. I have a lot I want to get into with you, but first, big picture, your view of where Chairman Nadler is taking this.
Well, I think, my question for him is, what took you so long? I mean, we have known this for a long time. And, with Governor Dean is talking about corruption and crookery, that's separate. The constitutional impeachment remedy for high crimes and misdemeanors is about a president who abuses the public trust. And if you just look at the Mueller report, you can open up to any page, basically, and you will see an example of the president doing that. And for someone like me who reveres the Constitution, as so many Americans do, as a document to bring us together, as a document that says the president has to, quote, take care that the laws be faithfully executed, you've got a guy who's trampling on all of that. And it's a grave constitutional wound. And that's what impeachment is for. It's a process. It's not an outcome. So all these Dems who are like, well, we might not have the votes in the Senate, that should be irrelevant. Your job is, your first job in Congress is to protect our Constitution, vote accordingly. And, so I'm glad to see Chairman Nadler finally getting the show on the road.
It's interesting to get your responses, if I may, an institutionalist looking at that. I also want to ask you about this so-called effort to investigate the investigators. And Neal, one thing I could tell viewers is I will never ask Neal Katyal to read my fortune, and I'll never ask you to predict what's going on inside a secret grand jury room, because both are equally impossible. But I am curious what you make of the public maneuvering around it, which is the man who used to at one point be in charge of the Trump-Russia probe, Andrew McCabe, who took over for James Comey, releasing this, I think we all agree, unusual letter asking Bill Barr to fess up about what's going on, reports that they were considering or trying to indict him, reports from the Washington Post that the grand jury did meet. We don't know what went on inside the room. And for everyone's context, and I want to read from that letter, we heard rumors from reporters, grand jury considering charges against McCabe declined to vote an indictment. We don't know if that's true. But McCabe's lawyer is saying it's clear no indictment has been returned. That's their view. Could be, of course, sealed, or it could be something else. But the context, of course, Neal, is the pressure that has been brought to bear on the DOJ to investigate the investigator, something that Bill Barr was less than forthcoming about in this exchange. Take a look.
Has the president or anyone at the White House ever asked or suggested that you open an investigation of anyone? Yes or no, please, sir?
The president or anybody else?
Seems you would remember something like that and be able to tell us.
Yeah, but I'm trying to grapple with the word suggest. I mean, there have been discussions of matters out there that they have not asked me to open an investigation, but
perhaps they've suggested.
I don't know. I wouldn't say suggest.
Hinted.
I don't know.
Inferred. You don't know. Okay.
Neal?
Yeah, outrageous. I've had the privilege of serving in 2 different administrations, and I can tell you that there is an iron wall that protects the Justice Department from the White House in terms of who should be prosecuted and who shouldn't. Those are Justice Department decisions, Ari. They're not decisions for the president for all sorts of good reasons, because the prosecution power is immense and, can turn anyone's life upside down. And so the whole idea is the Justice Department makes these on a non-political basis. And here you've got Trump pardoning his friends like Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Dinesh D'Souza, and really effectively it looks like throwing the book at other people, including his political enemies. And, that started obviously with the campaign and lock her up. I guess that wasn't successful, but some of the other ones appear to be starting to gain some traction,
and briefly,
including McCabe.
Do you think the DOJ can say whether or not this case is over?
So the McCabe one is very interesting. So, on Thursday, it was revealed that the Justice Department rejected McCabe's request not to be indicted, but then he wasn't indicted. And so everyone's like, what is going on? And right now, it's impossible to know, as you say, from your fortune cookie thing, but at least one very likely explanation, and getting increasingly likelier with every moment, is that the grand jury, Ari, has refused to render an indictment of Andrew McCabe. And that's really significant. The grand jury is part of our Fifth Amendment. It was written in for the most profound of historical reasons. It was the trial of John Peter Zenger in 1734, who was this guy who basically wrote all of this anti-Crown, anti-New York colonial governor newspaper screeds. And the king and the governor tried to have him arrested. And 2 different grand juries said, you're not indicting that guy. And that's what led to our Fifth Amendment. And indeed, actually, our First Amendment and Fourth all come from that trial as well. So this is a critical safeguard on the abuse of the prosecution power. And it's a really rare thing to see a grand jury ever say no when you want to seek an indictment. The kind of standard phrase from the New York Court of Appeals high judge was, a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich.
Ham sandwich, sure.
But here, again, we don't know. We're just looking at this, but at least one explanation is looking increasingly likely, which is the grand jury took the incredibly rare step of protecting individual liberty and siding against government abuse in the prosecution.
And if that's what's happened, that would be a fascinating example of something we were covering earlier in the hour, the guardrails, living history elucidated by Counselor Katyal, which is a pleasure to hear and learn from. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I want to remind viewers you can always go to msnbc.com/opening arguments and see videos of all of our reports with Neal Katyal and these breakdowns. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.